Welcome back to our city. We're here for the second half, and we're talking with the illustrious Mr. Paul Mattingly, who is a wealth of knowledge and just nonstop. So if you missed the first half, you're definitely in for a treat for the second half. Now, Paul, what is the role of an Elizabeth Forum for the city's residents?
Well, we see this as a civic resource primarily. What this means is that many neighborhoods actually are very tight but enclosed and encapsulated. They actually don't have a lot of knowledge of what a neighborhood adjacent to them with a different ethnic or racial tradition actually is all about. One of the things that we are doing is looking at the experience of citizens as a part of the shaping of our history and looking at their basic routines and showcasing them. People from these multiple neighborhoods come to the Elizabeth Forum and they see how people first got here, what they did for work, what they ate, where they recreated, where their kids went to school, and they suddenly see, oh, they're not that different. And we see part of our task here as a civic resource to break down some of the false barriers that people create about each other.
Okay. Now, in the upcoming forum, what is the central theme and what does it add to the published history of Elizabeth?
One of the things that we will do in the Bayway is what we have done in all the other neighborhoods that we have studied, and that is to look at history as both as a community, an historical community, as a product of both top-down decisions from elected officials and their initiatives, but also from the bottom up, from citizens who actually live there. When you look at a group area like Bayway, the most obvious thing are the great manufacturing corporate establishments, especially Standard Oil and now ConocoPhillips. And they play major roles, but it's not the only role. They actually affect why people come to this area because they want to work in these places. These places have actually living wages, family wages. They know they can raise families there. Even if they come as early immigrants do, as largely unlettered, they did not come without skills. And those particular skills are increasingly very, very important. So we're looking at the interface between top-down history and bottom-up history, and the citizens actually have a very important role here.
Now, do the citizens who participate, do they have an important role in your story?
They have a very important role. Often when we do our oral histories, citizens will say, well, why my story? I'm just an ordinary person. But actually, that's exactly what we want. It's the ordinary routines that structure people's lives. And if that's not a part of the story, you leave out everything but what the good and the great thought they were doing, whether or not it had an impact. This is the measure of the impact of decisions and policies made elsewhere.
Okay. Now, why is there so little knowledge of the 20th century Elizabeth experience, I mean, immigrant and African-American experience?
Well, the quick answer to that story is that when people come to Elizabeth, it is usually the point of first arrival for many, many individuals. And when they arrive here, their concerns are really for survival: work, shelter, food, the basics. History looks like a serious luxury. What happens actually, though, when you talk to people, there's a great deal of historical knowledge, but there's not a lot of history. This knowledge needs to be put together, and that's the distinctive feature of the Historical Society and what we're really trying to do, to put it together in a comprehensible form so that people will not only understand their city, but to see where they fit in it.
Now, we're talking about the forum. Are there plans for future forums after this?
We are in our third 5-year plan.
Okay.
So we have been in place since December 1999, and we have done these forums, many of them. We do at least one a year, but sometimes we do more than one a year. And we've done about 12 now. And as I suggested earlier, we've interviewed well over 100 people, the good and the great, as well as ordinary folks. And what we're really thinking about now is we've done a lot of the satellite neighborhoods: North Avenue, St. Mary's neighborhood, New Point Road, Peterstown, Bayway. It's now time for us to go to the mainstream and to look at Elizabethport and Elizabeth Avenue and Broad Street.
Now, time frame. You create the forum or your research piece, how long does it take to create something like this and put it all together to a finished piece?
It's not constant time for me, but I started in January. I've had the help of a lot of people, including, I must say, the Elizabeth Public Library's History Room is a tremendous asset, and the staffer there, Nancy Smith, has been outstanding. She was tremendously helpful on this one, but there have been other people. ConocoPhillips has actually helped support some of this, not just with funds, but with their archives. Some really terrific resonant pictures that I'm going to use in this presentation. But a lot of the ordinary citizens, they all have photograph albums.
Right.
And most of these photograph albums, as you might imagine, are of their relatives and friends and people.
Right.
People do not actually go around and photograph portions of their city that are very familiar to them, but they probably should. And they're the parts of the photograph albums I'm really interested in. And so sometimes you'll get people taking pictures of the family in front of the house, taking pictures of people going to school. In this particular story, there's a fair portion on Ravelag Manor, the public housing facility. And there are a lot of pictures of this.
Now, are there any plans for a book or anything? Or?
Well, you know, we probably do have enough for a book
right
now. Elizabeth Neighborhoods is a nice resonant title for this. But for anyone who's really interested, you can go to our website, go to the forum window, and access a good deal of the information that we have generated. There's also a very lengthy timetable where we have used published sources, but also we have a lot of resources of our own.
Okay. Now, as you do research, and we're talking about here in 2010, do you find a common link, family names from those from the 1800s continuously?
There are. On the last one we did, we called it, actually, informally, we called it the Girls Project. We were looking at Anna, Louisa, Emma, Mary. They're all female names related to the Kellogg family.
Okay.
We have Kellogg Park. Recently, the Kellogg family has contributed a knockout building where we were
for the college.
For the college, it's a outstanding building, and their contribution to the city has been ongoing. There is a Kellogg Foundation that has helped the Historical Society at various strategic places. But that's one example of a family that has, over time, certainly since the early 19th century, contributed to the city.
Okay. Now, if someone has an idea about New Jersey history, how do they contact you?
Well, I would say first go to the website and see if we have. I actually fielded a question today from a gentleman who's doing some research, and the family he's interested in lived on Anna Street. Well, we have done a project that included Anna and contextualizes it and looks at it over time, so that should be really helpful. The family was Jewish, and we have one whole forum we devoted to the Jewish community and its process of moving from Elizabethport to the Elmora section. And that's really a dandy job. So we were able to help him in two ways, and by sending him to the website first. If he has questions after that, you can contact, well, my contact information is on the website itself, so you can get in touch with me that way.
Now, your website again?
www.visithistoricalelizabethnj.org. I know that's clumsy, but we thought it had something to do with the search engines. They would catch visit, they would catch Elizabeth.
Right.
I'm not sure that that's actually true, because these search engines are so sophisticated now. They can catch a great deal of the information we actually have laid out on our website.
Now, holding a forum in a place like the Belcher Ogden Mansion, does that enhance the person's conversation? I mean, sitting in such a historical building?
It does. It's a site that actually housed a reception for George Washington in 1778. The Master of Ceremonies was Alexander Hamilton. One of the guests of honor was the Marquis de Lafayette, who gave the couple, it was a marriage reception, who gave the couple a set of crystal vases, which we still own. And people enjoy being in a place with this kind of resonance. And they're very conscious often, when the issues they're dealing with are very serious, that they're not only in a historic place, they're making history.